Okay, so we're going to be doing Parashat Shemot. One of the first items that appears in this parasha is a plan or plot by the Egyptians to outmaneuver להתחכם על היהודים. הבה נתחכמה לו, פן ירבה, והיה כי תקרנה מלחמה ונוסף גם הוא על שונאינו. The Egyptians are all of a sudden worried about this Jewish population in their midst. They may be overpowered. They may become a tremendous force to reckon with. They eventually may join the enemy and leave the land. So they devise various plans. One of them, of course, is to throw the Jewish boys, the males, into the Nile, to make the Jewish people work harder, make life more miserable for them. So Havanit Hakemalo. This phrase, Havanit Hakemalo, unfortunately, has repeated itself many, many times throughout Jewish history, where Goyim have plotted and have devised plans. And some of them, of course, some of those plans, many of the plans were interrupted by Hashem. Some of them went through, unfortunately. This is the beginning of anti-Semitism. Let's do something about the Jewish problem, the so-called Jewish problem. So the question that perhaps comes to mind is, what's the source of this anti-Semitism? What are the roots? Did they do anything wrong? As some claim, the Jews are ostentatious. Maybe that's true. That sometimes that can be a problem or an additional factor that contributes to anti-Semitism. Don't stand out. Don't draw the goy. Don't draw his eyes out. In other words,
low profile.
Yeah, keep a low profile. But that's not the main reason. Believe it or not, sometimes anti-Semitism is directed by Hashem. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants there to be including this Havanit Hakemalo here in Egypt. Kadosh Baruch Hu approves of it. How do we know? As the pasuk says in Tehillim that I will quote to you, Hafach libam lisno amo litnakel ba'avadav. Hafach libam lisno amo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is changing their heart to making them hate us.
So he can punish them.
What for? Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want the Goyim to hate us?
So he can punish them.
No. But why should they hate us? What do we gain from this?
Maybe to go back to Hashem.
Let's say we're observing the Torah, or in Egypt there was no Torah yet. What's the purpose of it? So many times HaKadosh Baruch Hu does this, exactly, so that to limit any association with the Goyim, to make sure that there's no assimilation, no hitbolelut, to prevent us from becoming too close to them. Right? Today we have halachot, Yerede'ah, which we discuss the various halachot concerning bishul akum, yain nesek. We can't drink their wine. We can't allow them to cook for us because the rabbis are concerned about hatnut, getting too close. One day we may come to marry them. We become friends with them. They're like, why don't you marry my daughter? Why don't you marry my son? Just look what happened now in Israel. The guy was very friendly with the Palestinians, this Jew, and he felt okay, and he was murdered by other Palestinians. They don't care if he has a Palestinian friend. He's Jew. You have to be careful. Where are you going? You can't trust them. You can't rely on them.
The latest example was in Iran, really.
In Iran, yeah.
Exactly, believe me.
Also the same thing.
During the last part of the regime of Shah,
right.
The assimilation, the closeness was.
Were they assimilating them too? Were they intermarrying too?
Intermarrying too.
Really? Yeah.
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 Sure, because it was, open now.
You see, because in Mexico there's less of a problem with intermarriage. Why? Because many of the Mexican people, not all of them, are indigenous. So there's no real closeness. There's no,
You look so different.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different. But nevertheless, you have a lot of Spanish descent in South America to a lot of European descent, and they may be very good looking, and assimilation can happen. And as a result of this danger, this continuous danger that exists throughout the Galut, especially when they are treated as second-class citizens, the Jew may feel that he wants to get closer. So Kadosh Baruch Hu reminds them, you're Jewish. And Hitler, that's what he did in the early 30s, where they proposed the Nuremberg, the Nuremberg laws. A Jew cannot marry a German. You're Jewish.
Even 3-4 generations past.
Yeah, imagine he had to remind us, you can't marry us. Only pure Aryans can marry, amongst themselves. We don't want anybody else. So, Havanit Hakemalo is a way to prevent the Jews from total assimilation. They were there for a long time. What's preventing them from integrating to Egyptian society? Right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, partly HaKadosh Baruch Hu is preparing this so that they should not, Chas Shalom, become totally integrated and lose their identity, which is what happened with German Jewry. Many of the German Jews lost their identity by insisting on having German names, wearing German clothing. Many in Poland, many Jews in Poland were able to recognize a German Jew. How? By his clothes. They wore the clothes of the Goyim. In Poland, the Jews wore Jewish clothing. The Jews. Not all of them, maybe. Eventually, many of them became more modern. But they kept among themselves. They spoke Yiddish. They did not speak the language of the country. Except for the more modern Jews, or the ones that went to universities, or the ones that became professionals. The Hafetz Haim, the Tzaddik, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, he barely knew Russian or Polish. He needed translators. A lot of people, even in my family, they understood, they communicated, but that was like their second language. The main language was Yiddish. So anyway, anti-Semitism comes from a variety of reasons, but one of them is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want Am Yisrael to become too integrated into the Gentile society, and therefore from time to time he reminds them. They go after them, and all of a sudden the Jew is surprised. He was my friend yesterday, and what happened now? Well, keep a distance. The next point, a very interesting point in Parashat Shemot, is that after the decree is given by Paro, that the boys, the newborn boys, the males, are to be thrown into the Nile, the women are given this job, the Jewish women. What happens? Two women stand out, and it says, "Vatir'ena hamiyaledot et ha'elohim v'lo asu kasher diber aleim Elohim v'sam tachayin et ha'yeladim." The two, or actually more, but especially these two, miyaledot, women who help in giving birth, they were God-fearing, and they did not do as instructed by Paro to throw the little boys into the Nile. Instead, they let them live. Somehow they succeeded in having the child being born and I guess taken home secretly. What's the Torah emphasizing over here? Batirena hamiyaledot, that they had fear for God. What's the emphasis over here? That they had fear for God, and that is why they did it? What else could there be? The Torah is telling us that don't think that these women did what they did out of their good nature. Let me ask you a question. You have two tzaddikim, two righteous people. One, from the time he was a child, was always a good boy. He behaved himself. He never spoke any lashon hara. He never showed any chutzpah to his parents. He studied well in school. He did everything right, correctly. Then you have another tzaddik who was very bad in nature, bad midot, bad character. But after a while, when he grew up, he matured, he learned, he became a real tzaddik, God-fearing person. Who's more praiseworthy? The second one. Why? The first one, he had it in his nature. Is there a reason for us to praise a sheep, that it's such a cute, calm animal that doesn't disturb? Or is it better, or is it more praiseworthy to praise a lion who's tame, right? Exactly. Who's walking around and kissing your hand and feet, right?
Exactly.
Which one stands out more? The one that's not natural. An individual who works upon himself, becomes God-fearing on his own, is much more praiseworthy. People, for some reason, make a big deal of individuals who are geniuses. What's the big deal? It's a matana from Hashem. He was born like that. It didn't come to him on his own. He didn't develop it. Rich people, a person is a millionaire, but he did not work for it. He inherited. Is there something to praise him for? No, also not. And even if you work for it, maybe that's his mazal, right? So when it comes to these things, analyze it. Did he make it on his own? Did he earn it? Or did it come to him, from his father, from somewhere else? In the genes. Exactly. Here the Torah is emphasized, don't think these women did it out of their good nature. They sacrificed their lives. It was a mesirut nefesh, to defy Paro, to go against his will, right? And to let his children live. And they did it, why? Because they feared God. So the Torah is telling us, this is something to praise. This is something that we should look up to and admire. Something that they on their own did, that was not in their nature necessarily, right? This is why this is emphasized over here. And that is why the Midrash says also that is why they are called by their new names, Shifra and Pu'ah. Their real names were what? Yocheved and Miriam. Why are they called Shifra and Pu'ah? They were called so by their ma'asim, their deeds. They're very special deeds that stood out in this very difficult time. Okay. The next point that stands out in this week's in Parashat Shemot is that there are several individuals in this parasha. There's Shifra and Pu'ah. Who else do we see? Which other individuals stand out in Parashat Shemot?
Daughter of Pharaoh.
Daughter of Pharaoh. Datan ve'Aviram, right? The Shotrim, the Jewish policemen, right? Who had a job. What was their job? To make sure that the Jews get their work done. And because they had pity on their brethren, they were hit. They got the punishment. We have various types in this parasha, Parashat Shemot. What you see from this is that at various times, especially during difficult times, you can tell the real nature of people. You see the greatest tzaddikim and the greatest reshaim too. A person comes to you, befriends you, you don't know his real inner nature until, you both are in a very challenging situation. And that is when you see how people behave themselves. The typical example is if you come to your very close friend and you ask him for money. See, that's a very uncomfortable thing to do, because not everybody's comfortable giving money, not everybody's comfortable asking for money. But imagine if somebody that you always thought was your friend, all of a sudden says, "I don't have anything, I don't want to give you." It's a terrible, it's a terrible thing. It's not a friend, right? So that's why there's a saying that in time of need, we know who true friends are indeed. When in difficult times, that is when you. So people are continuously tested. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tests people in different situations. We all have our weaknesses. We all have our challenges. What are they for? Because we're being tested, and Hashem only tests us in something that we can actually perform. In other words, He would not give us a test that we cannot handle, that we would for sure fail. That's not possible. Only something that we can handle. So in this parasha, you see various individuals and how they react in the various situations. Shifra and Pu'ah, an excellent job in their challenging situation, very difficult situation. The Datan ve'Aviram, who were Jews, but they were malshinim. They spoke about other Jews, what they saw, and they are the ones that tried to kill Moshe. They are the ones that said to Moshe, "Do you want to kill us like you killed that Egyptian?" So that is, how did Pharaoh ever find out that Moshe was the one that killed the Egyptian? Through them. They were troublemakers. They told on other Jews. What's the word for it? Tell on others? Informers. Exactly. That's niche. Terrible avon. Yeah.
The same, I was not in Rashi.
Yeah.
Moshe asked himself a question, why is my people suffering so much? Maybe they deserve it. Because
I'm going to get to that, yeah. Who else stands out in this parasha? But you don't see it too clearly. It's much more evident in the Midrash. Miriam. Miriam was a young girl at the time that these troubles were beginning. She's older than Moshe and Aharon, her brothers. And she had the courage to tell her father something very, very strong. Her father did not want to have any more children. Why should, and he divorced his wife too. He said, why have children if they're going to be killed? We're being destroyed. What's the purpose of procreating? He had a point, but it was wrong. She tells him, "Daddy, your decree is much more serious than the decree of Pharaoh. Pharaoh's decree is only on the males, and now your decree is on the males and on the females, right? And you don't know what will be in the future. Your mitzvah, you have the mitzvah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to procreate, and don't worry about the future so much. You do what you need to do." And she encouraged her father, and her father listened, took back his wife, and Moshe and Aharon were born.
Shonan and 30.
No, Miriam is 7 years old.
No.
You're talking about the end.
Am I right?
Exactly. Yeah, she was already old. That was a miracle in itself. But anyway, so you see individuals, you see great individuals in this parasha. Plus, you see the low side of human beings too, of the Datan ve'Aviram. But anyway, with the Datan ve'Aviram, Moshe Rabbeinu reveals or finds out something very important. After he sees their attitude, their behavior, he says, "Achen noda hadavar." Those are key words in Parashat Shemot. Achen Oda Davar. Now the Pashut Pshat, if you just translate the words Achen Oda Davar, it means apparently now the word got out that I killed the Egyptian, so I better run away, which he does.
Yeah.
But the rabbis tell us Moshe says something very important with those words. Now I understand why the Jewish people are in trouble. Achen Oda Davar, that there are snitches amongst them. Right? At least at this period, not always, but at least during this time, there is sinat chinam, this baseless hatred, right? People snitching on others. Now I understand why the galut is taking so long. I was amazed.
When you say that, it's very difficult for us to put ourselves in position of someone who's a slave. And it's very easy for us to judge as what we're doing here. You don't know how you're going to react to the situation of a slave, and
but we're not talking about the slaves now. We're talking about the Tam V'Abiram right now.
Well, they were slaves at this time.
There were, yeah.
And you don't know how what sort of forces and things are around you. You mean you don't know what you're going to do in a situation. You just. I mean, it's not a normal environment. It's not a normal society. And
it's only these two in the whole Torah. Only these two.
Well, I don't think it's only these two. I think. I mean,
Let's put it this way. Let's assume that you have a point. That obviously we need to judge everybody favorably, but remember, we have the benefit of reading ahead and seeing how these two individuals behaved in the future after they were out of Egypt. So they were a bunch of rotten individuals to begin with. In other words, even later.
They died with Korah, no?
Exactly. Yeah. So there are bad people in society. That's really the point I'm just trying to bring across. There are bad individuals that will turn against their own people, will turn against their own parents.
From Shemot.
Right.
And Korah later on.
Right. So there are individuals who will turn either out of greed. In other words, it's not L'Shem Shamayim. Their intent, whatever they were doing, was not because they had certain concern. It was out of evil, or out of jealousy, or what. And the various individuals stand out. And then you have the shotrim, as I said, the policemen, who allow themselves to be hit, but would not hit their own Jewish brothers. So you see different types of people, different individuals. And you had it in World War II as well. You had the capo. Who was the capo? He was a Jew.
A Jewish policeman.
That was hired by the Poles or by the Germans. A policeman of sorts. Why? Because he speaks Yiddish, so he would be able to overhear, and he would know the Jewish customs and traditions, and he would be able to, if he chose to snitch or to do whatever. There were a few good capos that used their position to help the Jews, but many of them, unfortunately, in order to get a better breakfast, you know what was a better breakfast? A little bit of cocoa and butter. If you had a little bit of cocoa and butter besides your bread and onion or whatever it was, you were given a little bit of extra cocoa and butter, if you turned in a Jew. Many of them, for a little bit of extra cocoa, were willing to turn in a Jew. Could you imagine? Now, how do you do something like that?
You come back to this.
Yeah.
What you said in that situation, then you can understand.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it was against any logic to want to do something. Your life was not in danger. You didn't have to do that. Because of your tava, because of your desire to have a better breakfast, or because you just dislike somebody, to turn him in when you know what the Germans will do. So during the difficult times, that is what I said before, during difficult times, you see how people behave themselves. Yeah. If they're true friends, if they're really good people, or they're just a bunch of fakers. All right, the next point in Parashat Shemot is the appearance of Hashem in the sneh, right? In the bush, in the burning bush. Another important event in Parashat Shemot. What does the bush represent? So there are two things happening there in the bush. First of all, it's a bush, it's thorny, it's on fire, and it's low, and it's not being consumed. There are obviously many reasons perhaps why Hashem did that so, but the simple reasoning here is that Hashem is telling Moshe, don't think that the Jews are in Galut. When the Jews are in Galut, so is the Shekhinah. When they are in pain, I am in pain. That is the whole idea of Tikkun Chatzot. Tikkun Chatzot, which people who are in a high madriga, people who understand what it's all about, do at midnight. So to cry for the Bet HaMikdash. What are they crying? They're crying Al Galut HaShekhinah as well, not just for Galut. See, because people who are, let's say, poor or being persecuted, Jews who are in a bad situation like the ones in Argentina right now, of course they can begin to cry because they're desperate. To really cry for the galut is to have in mind galut ha-Shekhinah. Hashem, there's a astarat panim. Look at the goyim. They mock. They don't believe in Borei Olam. There's no Bet HaMikdash. Look at the Churban. This is what one should be concerned about and crying about, not his own personal situation. The goyim are bothering me. They're after me. Hashem, send the Mashiach already. I'm having a terrible time. I can't make ends meet. That's of course everybody feels that way. But the real Tikkun Chatzot is when one includes the Shekhinah in his tzar, in his personal pain. I feel bad that the Shekhinah is not around, that the world cannot see, that people cannot recognize and acknowledge that there's a creator. It hurts me that the Shekhinah is in Galut.
When you say Galut, don't you say the Shekhinah is still at the Kotel?
Yeah, the Shekhinah never left the Kotel. But nevertheless, the Shekhinah is with us in the Galut. It's like, it also went into Galut as soon as the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. There's no more center, there's no more home. Right? It's been destroyed. So in the Sneh, Hashem is saying, I'm also in the Galut. And that is how it has been, in the past, for the past close to 2,000 years, the Shekhinah has been in the Galut. However, the other point in the Sneh is that it's not consumed, meaning that even though you see and you're concerned about the suffering of the Jewish people, and it appears that they're going to be killed and destroyed, no. Hasneh enenu ukal. The Sneh will never be consumed, even though they will be persecuted, and this will happen in the future too, but they will never be killed off completely. As the Hafez Chaim was once asked, he spoke about the coming war, believe it or not, many years before it happened, World War II. He said World War I will be like a child's game compared to World War II, and World War II will be like a child's game compared to World War III.
So there's a World War III coming?
Well, there's going to be something, yeah. So they asked him, well, what's going to happen to the Jews in Europe? He's threatening to destroy them as soon as he came to power. So he said, Behar Tzion tiyeh fleta. Navi says, the prophet says, don't worry, even though he gets some of them, he will never get all. Like Yaakov did with splitting up the Machaneh. And if Esav gets one, the other one will be spared. Behar Tzion tiyeh fleta, in Eretz Israel, there will be those who will survive. So even Chaz v'Shalom, if they are able to get us in one place, they will never be able to get us all over. That is one of the purposes of Galut all over the world too, but we should not be in one place. So that is also symbolizing the Sneh that is not being consumed.
So if we all go to Israel, all of us, all the Jews, they all go to Israel, maybe they come after us there.
Yeah, at one point they will try. That's Mechem Gog and Magog.
Yeah.
They will be destroyed, sure. Many of Jews will already be there. Today we already have 5 million. So they will try to come. At that point, of course, Hashem's name will be sanctified. Alright, so Hasaneh Enenu Ukal, Moshe Rabbeinu is being given many answers to many of his doubts and questions that he has. He doesn't express them verbally, except for one that we'll talk about soon. But many people have doubts and questions. Why does Hashem do this? Why is things like that? What will happen to the Jews? So there's a lot of symbolism in this Sneh. Many questions and doubts of Moshe Rabbeinu are being answered by this particular appearance. And one of them is that the Jewish people, don't worry, will never be destroyed. I won't let that happen. There's also anava, as you mentioned, it's low. There's humbleness here involved.
What's low? The bush itself?
Yeah, it was a low bush.
And the fire will represent what you say about that.
Not being consumed.
Not burning.
Okay, the next point is I spoke a little bit about on Shabbat, is that the Galut of Mitzrayim was decreased. It was supposed to last so long, so many years, and Hashem reduced the number of years. Why? Because they were overworked. That's a simple pshat. They suffered overtime, right? They suffered a lot more than what it was intended to, and as a result of that, Hashem reduces the time. The same will be also true in the future Galut. The Galut that we're now.
Yeah.
That even though it's already lasted so long, HaKadosh Baruch Hu very possibly, some say, spread out the suffering that the last generation was going to have over several generations. Not at once, because it would be too difficult for one generation to have all the suffering that is supposed to happen. For example, World War II, that was a tremendous dose of pain and suffering. but there could have been a lot more. So Hashem, instead of giving it all to one generation, He spread it out. He began a little bit 60, 70 years ago. Now in Israel, the Israeli conflict with the Arabs, there's more suffering, unfortunately. Hashem spread it out. What's that meant? What's the purpose of all this pain and suffering? You could say, so in Egypt, part of that pain and suffering that Hashem did not bring about, but the Egyptians overdid it, that at least had the desired result, a good result, of reducing the time. Here in the Galut, in the long Galut, that is almost 2,000 years, it's already long. Will it reduce it? Maybe it's going to reduce it too, but it's already long. So it has another effect. It has also the effect of kaparat avonot. When the Jews left Egypt, there was a big accusation against the Jews. Why are you performing all these miracles for them, taking them out of Egypt? They're just as guilty as the Egyptians in idol worshipping. So Hashem answers the midat adin, the accusing angels. How could you compare? They were forced to do it because of their situation, like you were saying, the circumstances that they were in. That is what they came to. They didn't do it voluntarily. So you cannot compare somebody who does something intentionally, knowingly, to someone who does not really want to do it. So the same thing will happen right before Mashiach comes. There will be accusations against the Jews. Why are you bringing them to Geulah? Look at them, they're assimilating, they're marrying. Hashem is saying, and Hashem is going to of course say, well, it's a long diaspora, they've suffered a lot, and that is part of the consequences of the diaspora. Nevertheless, there's still a din. Hashem has to deal with the din, and He does so with the Yisurim. The Yisurim, the pain, acts as a kapara, as an atonement for the avonot.
The number of years from the time that Yaakov arrived in Mitzrayim till Yetziat Mitzrayim,
that's only 210.
But it wasn't 210 years of obvious
of actual labor, only 116 probably. After the last of the tribes passed away, Levi, that is when the real bondage begins.
And then it didn't happen overnight. It took a period of time before it was worked up to...
Before it was worked up. That's the next point I'm getting to. That as it gets closer to the Geulah, it intensifies. What for? Because part of the pain and suffering, especially the intense pain and suffering towards the end, is because Hashem wants the Jewish people to ask to be taken out. Right? That is when we see the word Na'akat, Bnei Yisrael. Hashem heard their cry and their complaints, the tza'aka and the lachatz and the suffering. Jewish people, all the Jewish people would ask, we want Mashiach now, not just Lubavitch. Mashiach would have come already. But some people are very comfortable. So why? Well, I don't need Mashiach. I have a house, I have a Porsche, a Jaguar,
Mercedes, right?
Rolls-Royce.
What do you have?
Right?
I don't have none of this.
What do they need? What do they need Mashiach for?
Anyway. Yeah. I hope.
So anyway, so Hashem sometimes intensifies the pain and suffering just to bring about a tza'aka. Enough.
Scream.
We want Mashiach, right? And that is what happened also towards the end, towards the last few years in Egypt. Hashem intensified it just for them to ask, so that it should come from them that they want Mashiach.
It's 2,000 years.
What? It's 1900, a little over 1933 years, almost 1934 years. It's the Churban, right?
That's from the second.
For the second Beit HaMikdash, yeah. Okay, so we have
70 AD. 70 AD, the year 70.
Right. Anyway, so we have these two factors making the Galut Mitzrayim shorter, the tza'aka, plus the extra work that the Egyptians made them work. Because according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's decree, Mazal, according to the Gezerah, they were supposed to be there so many years in bondage and slavery, but because the Egyptians overdid it, they overworked them, that also contributed to lesser years, lesser time in Egypt. Then we have the point of the Makot. The Makot begin in Parashat Shemot. We have 10 Makot. Some of them begin in Parashat Shemot. Actually, they don't begin in Parashat Shemot. They begin in Parashat Va'era. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They say, but nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is already letting Moshe know, Ata tir'eh asher aseh leParo, you're going to see now what I'm going to do to Paro. Okay, b'yad chazaka yishalachem, b'yad chazaka yigareshem. So in other words, he's already letting know Moshe that this is going to be a very incredible experience and how they're going to leave. They're not just going to leave by
So-
themselves and escape in the middle of the night, but Paro is going to actually throw them out as a result of the makot. So I might as well just bring this up right now, and that is the famous question: why 10 makot? Why blood? Why tzfardea? Why kini? We're going to get more into details of why each one next week when we talk about them, Parshat Vayera. But for now, all we need to know is that every makkah is a midah keneg midah. When Hashem punishes, whether it's an individual or a nation, there's a reason why He uses this makkah and not this makkah. And Hashem's midah, one of His midot is midah keneged midah. It is an eye for an eye. So if He uses a particular punishment, it definitely has something to do with what they did to the Jewish people. Otherwise, why would He bring about the makot? That is number one. Number two, the makot also brought about the Kiddush Hashem. The best place to make a Kiddush Hashem is in Egypt. Because Egypt, they believed a lot in themselves. They believed in their witchcraft. They were so powerful. And what did they say in Makat Kinim? Etzba Elokim.
Right.
So who should we believe? If anybody's going to say it, it's better if the Egyptians say it. Right? He's an atheist. He's an atheist.
How can he actually say, he said this is why looking?
Because anytime you see a wonder, you might say, well, mikre, it's an accident, it's by chance. Or you can say it's witchcraft.
But he said
No. Let's take the Jewish people to Egypt. Let them be enslaved by the Egyptians, who are the biggest and the greatest experts in witchcraft. Let them see the wonders of Hashem, and let them tell the world, no, there is Yesh Elokim Bashamayim. There is a God. All that happened was not witchcraft. Was no batiyah. This is real stuff, and this is from Hashem. Etzba Elokim Hi.
But they continue in the same way. If there is Elokim, so change.
Afterwards, Hashem hardened their heart, but especially Paro, but not everybody. There were Egyptians who got the message. Hayaret Elokim, Bar Hashem, right?
Took his animals.
Right, took his animals in. Remember that?
Yeah.
So there were Egyptians who got the message, who knew right away, this is real stuff, this is serious stuff. Etzba Elokim Hi. And who said that? Who said those words?
The
Right?
sorcerers.
The sorcerers,
The
the
witchcraft.
Chachamim. Right.
There was.
Right. So part of these makot, part of the idea of bringing about these makot is also for the Kiddush Hashem. This is what comes out as a result of the major disasters in the world. People begin to fear, right?
And believe.
Yeah. There's the pasuk in Kohelet, Va'elokim asa sheira'u. God performs certain things only for this one purpose, that people, human beings, should fear Him. What are those things? So there's all sorts of natural disasters in the world, of course, but even a halom ra, even a bad dream. There was certain things that their main purpose is only to shake somebody up, to wake him up. As the Gemara says, the brakim, the ra'amim, the thunder, but especially the lightning, is there for what reason? What do we need it for? To do anything for
it doesn't do it.
to the world? I mean, does it improve anything? It's only destructive. So what is this force all about? Le'asher akmimut shebalev. It is to straighten a part of the heart that may be crooked. What does that mean? It basically, in other words, to instill the fear of God in man, whose heart may be a little bit crooked, akum ktsat, le'asher ktsat, to help him straighten himself up, in other words, to wake up, to realize that Hashem is managing the world.
There's one question.
Yeah.
She said, Batya.
Yeah.
When she opened the basket, she saw him. Who is him? She saw the baby when she opened the basket.
Yeah, sure.
Or she saw something else.
No, she saw the baby, but she also saw that he was a very special baby.
But and they said the house was full of light.
That was when he was born. Yeah.
What, a real light?
Yeah. Like it was a very special light, like the light of the Shekhinah. Okay, now let's talk about the last point. Moshe has a terrible complaint. First, he's confident, he's optimistic, he's on an important mission. And after he begins his mission, things become worse. Things become worse. What happens? Now you got to go fetch your own heaven to make bricks.
Slow.
Right? You're asking for a day off. You're lazy. Paro tells them. They get hit. Right? Things become worse. So Moshe complains to Hashem and says, Lama harre'ota la'am hazeh? Why did you make things so bad for these people? Lama hazeh, why are you sending me? Me'az bati lefar'o ledaber b'shmecha, hira la'am hazeh. Things have only become worse. Be'atzeh lo itzalta tamecha. You didn't save the people as you promised you did. Right? People have all sorts of complaints. Lama tzaddik vera lo rasha v'tov lo? Why are the good people suffering, the poor and the bad people are successful? Right? Why there's so much war and hunger and disease? People have many questions. Where is Hashem? They ask. Moshe Rabbeinu is not an exception. He also asked these questions in the very beginning. But even later on, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Kadosh Baruch Hu, "Har'eni nat kevodecha." Right? In other words, Hodi'eni na, let me know. Show me. You derachim. Show me why you do certain things. That was his real question. Why do you do certain things? Why is this like this and this like that? I don't understand. And of course, the answer is, you can never understand while you're alive everything. Just like you cannot see me while you're alive, you cannot also understand.
But you said, well, even the person dies, you can see.
When a person dies, he sees a little bit of Shekhinah. Sure he does. But now he doesn't see Hashem, but he sees the Shekhinah, which is a part of it. So, while we're alive, in the physical body, we're limited, and there's so much we can know and see. So Moshe was also given this answer in different ways, that it will never be possible for him to understand everything. He never understood perfectly why there is something called paraduma that is necessary to tum'ah, the red heifer, the ashes, why it works like that. Even Shlomo HaMelech, who was the smartest man on earth, there were certain things that he said are beyond me, right? So there are certain things we can never fully understand. There was once an emperor, I think, that asked the rabbi, I want you to show me where God is. I don't see him. Says, I'll show you. So he takes him outside. It was a bright day, and he points to the sun. He says, look up. He says, I can't. He says, you can't. You can't look at one of his small meshartim, his small servant.
Creation.
Small servant. How could you expect to see him? This is just one of his small servants. You can't look at him? How could you imagine? How could you ever think of looking at him? Right? Good example. It's not possible to see while we're alive. So it's also not possible for us to understand everything. And there are many things we don't know. We don't understand. Doesn't mean there's no reason. There's no cheshbon. But anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu, this is the question that he poses to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You send me on a mission. You promise me that you're not performing. You're not delivering. On the contrary, things are worse. Right? Anyway, the answer is partly here, partly next week. Next week we'll talk about it a little bit more. When Hashem uses the word Elokim, and uses the word Hashem to explain to Moshe that there are various systems in place. There's a system of din, there's a system of rachamim. But as far as your question of why things are worse now than before, for that, Hashem tells him, don't worry. So what you're about to see is the Geulah. And what I'm doing right now in intensifying the situation is a siman. All of this is a signal of what is yet to come. In other words, it doesn't mean Chaz v'Shalom that I'm punishing more, that I'm giving them more pain and suffering just for nothing. It's a siman. It's a preparation for them to know that the Geulah is about to come. Just like a cassette. A cassette, before it finishes, right, it goes quicker. Right before the Geulah will come, right before Mashiach will come, things will start happening a lot quicker. Things will intensify. Yeah. And that is what? Yeah.
Every day you have a new machine.
Yeah. And that is what he's telling him, that this is a siman that the time is coming. As soon as things begin to intensify. And Rambam tells in Masechet Sanhedrin that the gezerot, right before Mashiach comes, the decrees that will come like waves, one after another, uninterrupted. Every day you will hear something. And today it's not anymore every day, it's every hour. You turn on the radio, somebody else got killed. So when you see, the Rabbi tells you, when you see that the gezerot happen one after another in quick sequence, that is the siman that Mashiach is coming. So in the same way, Hashem begins to give him the explanation, not the entire answer. The rest of the answer is in next week's Parasha, which we'll cover next week, in Parashat Vayera. But he begins to tell him that there is a reason why things are intensifying. It's a signal of mine. It's my signal, my way of telling the Jewish people the end is very near. So let us hope that what we're seeing today is also a signal, and I have no doubt that it is a signal, that the end is very near.